back in the day at BYU, you were either publish or perish, which meant you had a PhD and you had to write, or you were produce or perish. So for me, it was the outside work as an actor. It was all of my directing down at Tuacahn. I'd done 15 shows down there.
Yeah.
And so that was something that was required of me as a professional and as a teacher.
Welcome to the Red, Green, Blue podcast.
All right. Okay, here we are. Welcome to the RGB podcast. I'm here with Tim Threlfall, who has done musicals, directing, drama, everything. He's taught it for decades at Brigham Young University, and we're going to learn from his wisdom. And he's actually directing a musical today called The Osmonds, the Musical, which is the Osmonds of 70s pop music fame, and which is really something because when I lived in England, when the United Kingdom, and they'd hear I was from Utah, they'd be like, oh, the Osmonds. That would be like the first thing they would say.
Yeah.
It's amazing how big they are in England.
Well, Osmond Mania is still huge in the UK. So this show was written by Jay Osmond, who's just the next brother older than Donnie. And the show ran for 200 performances in the West End. So this is
it did.
This is bringing it over to the US for the first time. And it makes sense for it to start out with landing in Provo, Utah, where kind of home base for the Osmonds.
Which was their home. Yep. Their home away from home. No, actually, it's just their home. Yeah, no, it's weird. I actually live near Osmond Lane.
Do you?
Yeah, I live just 100 yards. My brother has a house on Osmond Lane. I have a dream of owning Alan Osmond's house. It's at the end of there, but it's owned by this guy, and he just kind of owns it. He'll never list it for sale. So I'm kind of bummed.
Maybe you can go visit every once in a while, right?
Oh, yeah. No, I stalk it regularly because it's right next door to my brother's house. And it'd just be fun to live next door to my brother. I mean, that's also my other motivation. And it's got the best view I think you can possibly have. It's like at the end of this peninsula, it's just got a killer view of the valley. But anyway, we'll end up with that. But first of all, I want to talk about your early career. So how did you get started in drama?
Well, I think acting has always been what I wanted to do, even as a kid. I was a weird kid. Any kid that wants to do acting as a kid is a weird kid. Just turns out that way. So
theater kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And my wife and I have failed because all three of our children followed in our footsteps. So we've, my son graduated from film at BYU. My eldest daughter was in the MDT program, which is music, dance, theater. And that's what I ran for 28 years.
Music, dance, theater. Right. So that's musical specialization.
Exactly. Yeah. And then our youngest is in dance education, but they're all still working in the industry.
That is amazing. I don't know. Maybe you have conflicted feelings about that. Some parents do.
But I guess the apple doesn't fall that far from the tree. But I just finished 28 years at BYU. My wife just finished 24 years at Provo School District, so we retired together.
Oh, really? Where did she?
She taught at Centennial Middle School.
Oh, did she?
Taught science.
Oh, neat.
And she taught at a couple other places as well, but that's where she retired. So it will be 1 year in about 2 weeks, September 1st. So haven't really felt retirement yet just because I've gotten involved. I promised myself I wouldn't get involved in a lot of stuff in my first year. And sometimes in this business, you got to take the opportunities when they come because they don't always.
No.
So I did a film right as soon as I retired, which was always fun because there's a lot of my students in it. So I had one student who had just graduated, played my daughter. Another student was, I think, my nephew in that one. That was a Christmas movie that was shot locally. It came out this last Christmas. Yeah. And then that same company that I had done a number of films with, I had done one in Tahiti 2 years earlier with them, which was great fun. A little intimidating because it was...
Were you an actor in these? Or?
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah.
But I had to do a French accent in a French-speaking country, which was a little...
Oh, boy, that can get you in trouble, particularly with the French.
Absolutely. So we'd go into... I remember going into a restaurant there in the tiny island of Moorea, and it was like... There's all these kind of funky-looking old Frenchmen.
Oh, gosh.
And they thought I was one of them.
They did?
Unshaven and just hanging out. And I could see why the director said, no, we need to stay here for a little while. So anyway, that was fun. Same company that did this Christmas movie. And then they branched out and are doing their first series.
Yeah.
So we shot season 1 right after that. We're in the midst of shooting season 2. I think the trailer for it just came out. And now we're going into the second half of season 2. And in the meantime, I just did a Hallmark movie about football that should come out in like September, October, I'm assuming it'll come out then, called Home Turf, that a friend that you may know, McLean Nelson, directed that.
Oh, yeah, I know him, yeah.
I think McLean played my son in a film that you were crewing in like 15 or 16 years ago.
In fact, a fun thing about that, I was first AC in that movie, and McLean was late for we couldn't show up. I can't remember what it was. Yeah. So anyway, I was a stand-in for him, and because we looked similar enough, and it stayed in the movie. So there's a scene where there's a family shot. For a brief second,
You're my son.
I'm your son. Wow. So actually, I'm an uncredited your son in that movie. But the funny thing is, during my very brief acting career, though, honestly, and I told the director this, like, I don't know, I never wanted to be an actor, but like when I first got into film from still photography, I was like, I don't know anything about acting. So I just went on some auditions to see what it was like. And then I also even had like casting directors for the church, like recruit me for things and stuff. And so anyway, but I'd always end up in the same room with him. It was like always me and him.
I can see why. I mean, you two are kind of similar height and look.
Yeah.
Too, so.
The difference is he really wanted to be an actor, I feel. And he's good at it, you know, but anyway.
And I've done 4 films with him now. He's been really
well, that's great. Well, it's good. He turned into such a fine director.
Yeah, he has. And it was fun because then I did one with him in Hawaii in 2020. It was during COVID. So it was like in between every take, put your mask back on.
Oh, wow.
And sometimes he would say action and somebody would come and say, Tim, take your mask off. So I'd have to quickly, because I'd forget that it was on.
Yeah.
And the gal that played my wife in that One Good Man one, he thought it would be fun to have her come back and play my wife in this film, which I'm trying to remember the name of it. It was Once I Was Engaged. Is the name of it. It's a sequel to Once I Was a Beehive, movie. And Pam Eichner, and she's a wonderful actress. And then just a couple months ago on this series that I'm on, she ended up, the director didn't know that we knew each other, but she showed up as my blind date in this scene. And I completely blow it because I play a kind of dopey dad in this series. In fact, the trailers have just come out and I'm not in any of it. And I'm like, did I do something wrong?
Did you get completely cut?
But no, it's kind of the jet setter cool people, and they had done a lot of it on a private jet. They had a yacht. They did car racing. They were in
show their production value. Yeah,
and they were in the Caribbean. And my exotic location was a market in Lehigh.
Yeah,
so that lets you know about what my character was like. But it was great to work with her again on that. And then actually McLean directed this Hallmark Home Turf one that's coming out. But I did get to play a billionaire on that one, so I wasn't dopey dad.
You're the billionaire, man.
Yeah. if I could have the real,
The real money, I think everybody,
cool. But so I haven't really retired.
No, it seems like you're working more than when you were teaching. Because you have the time to commit to these projects.
Yeah. So. Well, and even though back in the day at BYU, you were either publish or perish, which meant you had a PhD and you had to write, or you were produce or perish. So for me, it was the outside work as an actor. It was all of my directing down at Tuacahn. I'd done 15 shows down there.
Yeah.
And so that was something that was required of me as a professional and as a teacher. So you kind of had to make it all work even when you were.
Oh, geez, that's such a huge time commitment.
Well, now I go, how did I do all that when I had to work, 50 hours a week as well? So retirement does have a few perks with it.
Okay. Well, there you go. No, it's true. No, you can do a lot more work. And also you probably have a retirement and a pension and stuff. So you don't have to worry about uneven income like most working actors have to.
And that is so true. I mean, we've talked to our kids about it just because most of them don't, most people won't have a pension.
Yeah.
And we do, both from the state of Utah for my wife and from BYU for myself. So that is an enviable position. We're not wealthy by any stretch, but, something assured in your golden years is consummation devoutly to be wished.
Oh yeah, no, it's true. And honestly, I think, to our audience, think about that stuff. I think, you see I mean, there's one guy who's working in the industry around here who just kind of went from play to play, movie to movie. And then he like, all of a sudden he couldn't really work. He couldn't really walk. And anyway, he had no savings. And it's just like, it was sad to watch. And other people would talk about it because we all knew him. We all liked him. Yeah. And it's like, what is there to do? I mean, how do you give somebody a retirement? We couldn't do that. We're not in that position.
One thing that does help are unions. Actors Equity is the union for professional stage actors. So I have a pension through them as well.
Okay, yeah.
Not very big, but I do have a pension through them. Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists will do that. Also a member of SDC, which is a stage directors and choreographers one, and so you can pull a pension from that as well. So that's one thing that unions still do that is helpful.
Yeah, well, I think this guy, he mainly worked in like community theater and stuff. I don't think he was on union projects, but yeah, no unions. Learning about your union in your field probably should be something you do when you're an intro student, even like this is what they can do. How do you get in with them?
And one of the classes that I developed at BYU was just called The Business.
Yeah.
And it was required of our BFA acting and BFA music dance theater students. And one of the key elements of it was everything about the business. I mean, we even talked about taxes. We talked about food stamps, if you need them. We talked about unemployment because there was always the joke that when a series is canceled, you'll see all the stars in line at the employment office,
Yeah.
And we also would then interview someone who was a BYU alum somewhere across the country that's in the business. Because
wow.
I lived in Provo. I couldn't really vouch for things. So we do someone who was on Broadway, someone who was struggling to be on Broadway, someone who was in TV series. We had amazing alumni. One guy that does nothing but narrates books, because he's a voiceover artist.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I think his daughter works for me.
Oh, yeah.
Goldie. Anyway, so
anyways,
he's fantastic. And amazing book work as an actor. You don't think about that, but it's been a pretty good job. And you can do it on a schedule and have a family with it.
And for someone like me, it's like the words are in front of me. I don't have to memorize.
Yeah, you don't have to memorize. That's
when
true.
You get to my age, that's a little harder than it was earlier.
Oh, yeah. Short-term memory doesn't transfer to long-term memory.
What was your name again?
Oh, sorry. No, I make that joke with my parents all the time because they're like, where are we supposed to be going? I'm like, okay. But so there's all sorts. That's interesting. So you show a lot of different ways how to be in the field and the pluses and minuses of them.
And it was really fascinating. I think I was at BYU 28 years, and I think I developed, I'm sure I did the class at least 25 years. And I never once had an alum say, no, I don't want to do that or can't do that. And some of them even, BYU is very affiliated with the LDS Church, even if they were no longer affiliated with it. Which was a substantial number of folks.
That's the field.
Yep. No one ever turned me down about talking to students. So it was just fantastic to have that connection. Unfortunately, I think the class is gone now because
you left.
Because I left.
No, it's true. It doesn't have anything about departments. It's interesting, like how the power dynamic. But business is a hard thing to talk about. And first of all, it's hard to know the business of art, and it's hard to actually to meet somebody who's actually survived the slings and arrows of being a professional, working professionally, and who will talk about frankly, who's strong enough in their position. They're like, you'd be like, oh no, I'm getting rich. I'm a rich actor, and which nobody is. So, or like, I'm a rich photographer. I'm this. I'm like, no, you're not.
Or you might be wealthy for a season.
For a season, it's like you have high lows, but I've met photographers and filmmakers. They'll like proudly brag the first sign of how much money they make. And if they're doing that, first of all, they're not making money because if they are, they wouldn't be saying it. So, but it's maybe what they made in 1985 for 1 year. And that just becomes their number or something forever.
Right.
But I'm like, no, you're
not.
And
we would even talk about what does it take to live in New York City.
Oh, geez.
So if you're earning $180,000 a year as someone in a Broadway show, that sounds pretty darn good to a student. But when you break it down, it might not be all that lucrative to live in New York City. Same thing in LA.
No, that's about like making 70,000 in Utah.
Yeah, I
about
think so.
about comparable.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. So we would look at that. We'd look at how to do your taxes. We would look at just everything that you could possibly think of about the business. And then, of course, towards the end, it really got into everything's online. How do we, and it even got to the point of having all of your auditions, video submissions, and how do you deal with those, and where is all of that? So, and I didn't always have the answers, so I'd bring in people who did.
Yeah, I know, and they would be. And that's something I've experienced with artists. And certainly if anybody, and part of the reason for this podcast is I like talking to people who actually know the field. Because I think there's like so few people, there's a lot of hearsay in the arts. And I think there's a lot of people saying stuff, but they don't really know, and they kind of just make up stuff, or even just people kind of who don't know telling other people who don't know, who then refer it to somebody. So it kind of becomes like an urban legend.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, well, if you shoot for Rolling Stone, you make this amount of much. And I know people who shoot for Rolling Stone, and they're like, no, you don't. No, you don't.
Or it's not a full-time job either.
No, it's not. It's like, in fact, this is a funny story. So I had a friend who we've graduated from photography program together. We were in New York. And he's like, Mark, I published a series of photos in Rolling Stone. I was like, wow, that's great. Good for you. He's like, they paid me $1,000. I was like, that's it? Somehow I thought you made it. He's like, yeah, I thought I'd make it too if I had published a series of photos in Rolling Stone. He's like, yeah, no, that's how much you got paid. There you go. And that's editorial. So really the truth is, and we were talking about this before we started, everyone makes their money through commercial, through advertising. Honestly, even like Michael Bay and big directors who shoot commercial style feature films, everybody makes their money through advertising, because that's just where the money is. And same thing for actors. You can make more money acting in a national beer commercial than you can being a lead on Broadway.
And that's
just the way it is.
That's even more true nowadays than it was before, just because there's so many opportunities for actors, which I'd like to talk about in business class. But most of them don't pay as well as they did at one time, just because there's so much of it.
Yeah.
And you have, for every new series that is out there, streaming or network, there's usually an A-list film actor. He's he or she or the star of it. Whereas before, I had one student say, and she's wonderful, still in LA, both her and her husband work a lot, but she said, if this was 20 years ago, I would have my own series, because I've done every series out there in great guest spots, but every time I get close to that, there is an A-list film actor that takes that role.
No, that's true.
And
so
I'm like, yeah.
No, and that's you're right. That is really interesting. That's a shift that's happened, and it's like all these people that used to be in the theatrical release productions, but now that's declined, and now they're populating the TV series.
The TV series.
Yeah. But it's funny because the TV series used to be the ladder, right?
Yes.
Like you were on ER and then you become George Clooney. And then all of a sudden you're George Clooney and you anchor your own movies.
Yes.
But yeah, so now where is the ladder now?
Yeah.
That's
so
the question.
it's kind of changed. And so I tried to keep up with that. But that's why I always wanted to talk to other people, because I just couldn't keep up with it all. It changed. And so I would talk about my trajectory was, I was an actor who wanted to direct. No one would let me direct, so I started my own equity theater company and ran it for 5 years. It was the School of Hard Knocks in theater management. I made every mistake you could make. I made them all.
Oh gosh, I can't imagine how many mistakes there must be in a theater company, in business, and like in film. I'm always like, I can't believe that happened. I didn't even know that was a problem you could have.
Talk about a rookie mistake. I still make rookie mistakes.
Yeah, it's funny when you make them again. You're like, wait a minute.
But I had done that, and that was my entrepreneurial sort of approach, because I wanted to direct. No one would let me direct. Well, they should not have let me direct, because I had zero experience. And I was doing straight plays in a summer resort town. There were some nights that no one came. There was no one. We canceled the show.
Canceled the show because there's zero people in the audience.
So I put together musical reviews, and they sold out every night and kept the company.
So the dramatic
afloat.
Stuff didn't do, but then you did.
I was doing the importance of being earnest, and people were like, I'm not coming to that in the summertime, especially in a resort town. So
also, I don't know what the word earnest means anymore.
No.
Like that was a big word back in the day.
Earnest money? Oh, wait, that's something different.
Yeah. Anyway.
But anyway, it was, so I made every mistake, but I did learn how to direct. And I think what helped me was that I had to turn a corner, and you and I were talking about this beforehand, that's when musicals came into my life.
Oh, is it?
So after 5 years of doing that, I ended up getting a job as the artistic director of Seattle Civic Light Opera. And it was a musical theater company that had been established for, I think it was 26 years when I took over. And so by the time the job at BYU came up 5 or 6 years later, I was a musical guy. My resume as a director looked like a musical guy.
That's interesting. So you started out as a dramatic guy, and then you end up as a musical guy.
I did not do a single musical as an undergrad or as a graduate.
And you wouldn't. I mean, because graduate school and academics is so bent towards like no exit, right? Like the most more obtuse kind of serious stuff.
Although when I got done with my MFA, I had I didn't recognize it at the time, but I thought about it with my students, thinking, I wish every one of my students had had this opportunity. In that day and age, that was 1987, regional theaters had standing companies. So in other words, there might be 8, 10, 12 actors. There'd be one character lady. There'd be one leading lady. There would be one leading man. There would be one ingenue, which is the young female, and there'd be one juvenile. And I was the juvenile.
You were the juvenile. Well,
I know. It's hard to imagine.
Well,
but
I know. I see you as ingenue. I just feel like the same. Anyway, go on.
But so I was full-time employed for 3 years straight. I didn't have to audition. Every young man role was mine.
No, interesting.
And the theater community couldn't sustain that more than about a decade after that, just because it was very expensive. Because occasionally there'd be a show that I wasn't in, and I would still get paid.
Was it like government subsidized or something? Or
no,
they just had enough work.
Yeah, they just had enough work. It was a small theater company, but very mostly Shakespeare. So I did every young Shakespeare role, a lot of Chekhov, a lot of Ibsen, a lot of...
So in a way you were spoiled, though, because you're doing all the A-list stuff, right?
Absolute A-list stuff that I had studied in school. And here I was getting to do all of these incredible roles as a young man for three years. And actually my small but existent pension through Actors Equity primarily based on those 3 years of constant employment for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
And I thought to myself, I wish that was still around for my students to experience, because I didn't realize how rich, powerful, and career-changing that experience was.
Well, during that time, I read the autobiography, I should say, of Patrick Stewart, which you think would mention Star Trek, but you'd be surprised. It doesn't. Yeah. He kind of just like, and I was in this show called Star Trek. Yeah. And then but it's really about being in the Royal Shakespeare Theatre Company and his work in doing repertoire theater. He was a character actor. He'd primarily play old men, even in his 20s.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. He talks about how he learned his crafts and how he developed as an actor through all that experience. And then randomly he's cast in Star Trek when he was like 45 or something.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating, honestly, I think, if you're interested in acting. But again, I think the undercurrent he talks about is there's just during that time, there's a lot of government subsidies in England for these type of theaters. And it wasn't easy for him. I mean, he talks about it because he's not like a classically good looking guy. Right. And so and also he's bald. And he talks about that. He went bald early, went bald in his early 20s. Yeah. And so that's just something that he really, really had to work as an actor to keep his place.
It was interesting when my wife and I were doing the London Theater Study Abroad program for 2 years.
Yeah.
And I remember distinctly being in line to go and see Curious Incident of the Dog at the Nighttime, which was a brilliant production. And we were talking to a couple, a guy and a gal who were actors. And he was like, well, I'm so jealous of your American actors because you get paid so much more than us. And I said, yes, but you also live a middle-class lifestyle and are employed a lot more
regularly
weeks of the year than most American actors are. So there was a difference on that. And the training in the UK, I still admire it because, and sometimes it's irritating to see so many British actors, male and female, get so many great plum roles in American films? I'm like, really? Couldn't we find some American,
gotta be American
guy to play that one?
In fact, when they were casting Lord of the Rings, I mean, of course, the director's from New Zealand, so he's, I don't know, part of the colonial empire. I don't know what you call him. Commonwealth. That's what they call it. He's a Commonwealth. His first rule was no Americans. But fortunately, Aragorn and Frodo got in, baby.
There you go.
So we got a couple Americans in there. But no, I do think that's a similar thing with the system. I mean, to me, we were talking about this before we came. Different countries have like different hierarchies of like their top medium. And here in Utah, it's musicals. I mean, it's 100%. Like the community theater. In fact, I have this employee, I said, she just starred in a new community theater in Salem, Utah, which is like a super small town. Right. It's growing, but it's still super small. And she said like, oh, but nobody came to our first show. And I was like, well, how many people came? And she's like, 80. I'm like, 80 is a lot for a town that small for a community theater. Like you go to a community theater in Austin and not get 80. You know, I mean, so.
Well, and it's interesting because I will leave names out. Yeah. Probably about 6 or 7 years ago, I decided I didn't want to end my career at BYU. So I started looking. Yeah. And I got, usually they'll bring in 3 finalists for a faculty position. And this one, I was one of the finalists at a very large, very prestigious East Coast school. I'll leave the name off there. It wasn't me. It was really what BYU Music Dance Theater MDT had done. At that time, we had a Broadway composer that was kind of in residence with us, that we were doing his shows. But I went for it, and I had to stay 3 days. And I think I lost the job. At least I tell the story. I hope it's true. I've told it so many times now. I'm like,
am I making this up?
Yeah, I hope I'm not.
Okay. But there's no name, so it doesn't matter.
Within the first day, and there was a Tony Award-winning director who was the head of their directing program. And as I was up to be the head of the whole musical theater department, it had its own department. Wow. I'm having dinner with this gal, and she's amazing. She's also president of SDC, which is the union for stage directors. And anyway, they said, what do you do at BYU to recruit people? Because I would say, I think she said 60 to 70% of this job is recruitment. You need someone who can really do it. And I thought to myself, what am I going to say? Because the truth is,
they're just raised on it.
I said, we don't, I said, I have to be honest with you. We do nothing. We do absolutely zero, because musical theater is so entrenched in Latter-day Saint culture. And then I spent about a half an hour, because they're all, well, why? Tell us about it. So I've gone into everything about the history of, Brigham Young having a professional theater in Salt Lake City before the temple was done. And one of his daughters who went off and started a program in Missouri that was one of the first degree granting programs in theater. And I think I lost the job right then and there. Just because
you talk a little bit too much about it.
I wasn't the right guy, but I thought I can't really lie, because we don't attend any of the big mass auditions that all these programs have. There'll be one in Chicago every year, one in New York, one in San Francisco, one in Florida. So I can't lie about it. But that's one of the reasons that, I'd like to take more credit for the MDT program really rising to national acclaim. And there's some that I think myself and my colleagues can claim, but some of it just has to do with Latter-day Saint culture and loving musical theater.
Yeah, so. No, it's true. And yeah, there's a deep love for it. And it's like high school musicals will be talked about in the community. And again, like my first store was actually next to Hale Center Theater's practice facility. Oh yeah. And so we'd listen to them rehearsing Newsies and stuff as we were working in our store. And it just, and again, you're just amazed at like the quality. Like you'd think it's a touring program, but this just unpaid. In fact, I asked them how much they get paid, and it was like $35 a performance or something ridiculous like that. But they're really, really good.
Well, they're doing better now. They get
they paying more,
especially the Hale in Sandy. I was on the Utah Arts Council for a while and on their theater thing, so I kind of saw some books as they would apply for grants. It's a double-edged sword, because you go to the Hale in Sandy and the production values are, they're keeping up with Tuacahn and Tuacahn.
Well, and they're on good as Broadway in some ways. I mean, you think they're a touring company. Sure. 100%. Like the quality is indistinguishable from a Broadway company touring.
Well, we had Frank Wildhorn is the composer that came in, and he made his money writing songs for Whitney Houston. He's also written 4 Broadway musicals, and he did a concert at BYU. We went to lunch with him. He discovered that both of his Broadway shows had at least 2 BYU grads in it. So he said, hey, I want to bring my Count of Monte Cristo, which has been a huge success for me in Britain. I want to bring it over here. Do you want to premiere it at BYU? And we did, and it was amazing. While he was there, we took him to a performance of, I think, Scarlet Pimpernel at the Hale, which is his show. He wrote Scarlet Pimpernel.
Oh, he did? Wow.
Yeah. And Scarlet Pimpernel wasn't running on Broadway at the time. I think Civil War was, and another one of his, I'm trying to remember. But we took him to the Hale Center Theater in Sandy, and he was just blown away with that facility.
The facility's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the Broadway theaters are really quite beat up. This one has marble in the bathrooms and stuff, and is Class A.
He ended up doing, I kind of introduced him to Tuacahn, and so both his Count of Monte Cristo and Wonderland, which is another one I did at BYU, they both ended up at Tuacahn, and Tuacahn can do things with shows that really Broadway can't. So sometimes it's like, well, this was really, the Broadway talent is stellar almost all the time, but they can't quite do the magic that a huge outdoor theater with 2,500 seats can do, and a flood that floods, comes over a Niagara-like waterfall in the background and floods the stage. When I first started directing there, it was like, we need you to use the flood in every show, Tim. And I'm like, okay, it worked for Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, where there's supposed to be a snowstorm, but we made it a flood instead.
Why not?
But then we got to Fiddler on the Roof the next year, and I'm like, okay, they burned down Anatevka. Maybe we could have a flood happen then.
You should write in a scene where Moses parts the Red Sea. Well, and just Anatevka kind of does it. It's like a dream he has. Exactly. He dreams of the Red Sea party with Moses.
But then when I did Big River there, we ran the flood for 45 minutes straight and had a remote control raft that went, so it was pretty realistic in terms of using that. And they got past it, so they didn't require me to use the flood all the time after that. But still, it was, I think Utah likes spectacles too.
Yeah.
Some of that is, I was on the directing staff at the Hill Cumorah pageant, and you can trace Hill Cumorah pageant in a straight line into Tuacahn and in some respect, some of the other local theaters, that there's just so much spectacle that we love.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why, but we do as a culture here. We love spectacle.
Yeah. Yeah. No, to me, a lot of my friends were raised on it, and I don't know. It's like, of course, I think it's like they're safer, even though if you actually watch Oklahoma closely, you'll be like, this is rated R. Definitely Oklahoma's rated R.
Yeah.
But
depending on how you do it.
Yeah. But like you go back and watch the movie, you're like, wait a minute. Who makes a device like a tube with a naked girl in it that you can stab somebody with? Like, who manufactures such a thing? Did that actually exist?
I directed it at BYU years ago, and we got letters because they were saying Judd Fry, who was the character you're referring to, was looking at pornography. And it's like, this was based on Green Grow the Lilacs, which I believe was written in 1904. And it is really the first anti-pornography script that you could find, because they're talking about Judd Fry, who's a very undesirable character, and he's looking at pornography, and finally at the end says, I'm tired of this, I want a real woman, and goes out and attacks Laurie and ends up dead at the end of the play. But these people had written and were upset about us doing a play. They didn't stay for Act 2, which was the problem. If they had stayed for Act 2, they would have seen the demise of Judd Fry.
Well, that's the problem. I think people who complain about art is they don't experience enough art to really see through it, right? To see what's really going on. Like, I had a show, and we'll say unnamed university, but it's funny. Like, I had to eliminate a number of photographs for various reasons. But like the two that I really thought should have been eliminated, I won't describe them, but it's like, because describing photos is annoying and ridiculous. But I was like, they didn't get eliminated. I was kind of shocked. I was like, so these ones got censored, but not these two, who I kind of thought going into were the one who's going to get censored, but they remain. Go figure.
Well, I think I have to be careful, but I think I disobeyed the law the most in my life, my first 10 years at BYU, where we would change language in plays just left and right.
Yeah.
Fortunately, they don't do that anymore. They're very careful to follow the copyright laws. And that's how we ended up with Frank Wildhorn, was I was trying to get us to do Les Mis. They laughed at me when I sent in all the changes we'd have to do. They said, why don't you look at the junior version? But even the junior version, we would have had to change. And
Lovely ladies.
Exactly. That's the song. I'm ashamed that you even know it.
No, that's,
So and that's right when Frank was here. So that's when I thought, okay, because I've always loved new works.
Yeah.
And so we would try to do in the MDT program a new work every other year. And some of them were just workshop musicals. Others were one called Berlin that we did years ago. And it was one of our grads had written it. He wasn't an MDT grad, but wonderful guy. He wrote the script, wrote the musical, composed it. Then he came out here and we shot it so it was a film. It actually won an Emmy. It went on PBS and won an Emmy in its category. I don't think it had a lot of competition, but still it was a grown-up Emmy, not a student one.
Wow.
And we had, it orchestrated and we shot it in the motion picture studio live with a live audience and 5 cameras running, which was a big mistake. Afterwards, trying to edit it was like, oh, now we're seeing camera 3. Oh, camera 2's in that one. And then we did probably a week of, more film-like filming of things without an audience. But it was an incredible experience for our students because they were in the studio. It was a film. It was a stage production. It was a brand new work. We were changing lines maybe right in the moment and say, okay, this is what you're saying tonight in the performance. And it was just this incredibly comprehensive learning experience. I know it was hard. Never got to do it again. Maybe that's my clue. Right there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was kind of everything rolled into one. So for me, that kind of bridged the film, TV, live stage, new work categories, all of which I've been involved with and love.
No, that's really nice. Yeah. So we're gonna get back to your career. So you were in that that repertoire theater, and then you directed things. Then you came to BYU.
I did.
And BYU again is it's surprising. They have, how big was the Dion Theater?
It was about 1,200.
1,200. That's huge for a university, and sell it routinely and multiple showings. But anyway, really well attended.
The one that I directed. There was only 3 universities that got to direct Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
It came available. We were the first ones to get it. We actually, Elon University, I think, beat us by like a month or 2 of putting up. But there were only 3 of them. It was hugely successful for all 3 of us. Then they shut it down really quick because they realized we don't want the universities doing it.
To make money from our,
Yeah, and we had to run that for an extra week in the Dion. But it also made, I believe, and somebody might correct me, but I think it was by far the all-time highest revenue producing TMA production, just because we also even had a lottery because everyone wanted to see it. So if somebody was 5 minutes late that night, we resold their seats. So there was never an empty seat in the Dion Theater for almost 2.5 weeks.
So there'd be people waiting outside for an empty seat to show up? Wow.
Yeah. And
that is amazing.
They do that on Broadway a lot. They'll have a lottery.
But at universities. Sure.
Yes. But it's also the only way that because there's a lot of people that buy season tickets and then don't show up.
Oh, yeah, ever.
So it's that. And they consider it to just be a donation. So I understand it. But that was a singular experience at BYU because it really took the entire College of Fine Arts to put all of that together. We had amazing flying by Ford, the company that came up from Vegas to do it. We had incredible projections. We had everything that you could do, really, that the Broadway production did, inclusive of the crashing chandelier. But it took a lot of money to put it up, but it also made a lot of money.
No, that's good. In fact, I think, I don't know if this, maybe you know better than me, but to me, it's unusual that the BYU TMA department makes money. Does it make money? from its productions, or do they kind of break even and they just put in more money into production value kind of things? Or
break even is, and I can't really answer for it now. Break even is always what they're looking for.
Okay, so they're not funding anything else.
But this one, I think it probably funded TMA shows for a couple seasons past it.
Really?
Most of the musicals made money if they were in the Diong, believe it or not, just because you pay by how many seats there are. That's what you pay for your royalty. And now in the new building, I think their largest one will be 800. So it's going to be harder to make money on a musical because they also cost a lot of money to produce and they cost a lot of money for the royalties. So they might have to tweak things a little bit to make themselves solvent in terms of musicals now.
Oh, interesting. In fact, I'll just say what it is. So the comedy group I was involved in and my family was involved in, we were making tons of money. Like we were making $30,000, $20,000 a semester. I don't know. Someone's going to shoot me for saying this number in public. We were doing well. Like we were selling out an 800 person theater 4 times a weekend. Wow. And it was pretty great. It was doing really, really well. And we were making so much money. We were in just a student club thing and they didn't know what to do with us because we were making so much money. And this is a thing that gets lost, and it's funny to me. Well, I'm going to say it, enough time has passed. So, what happened is they were like, "You're not doing any good for anybody. We're a student service entity, and you're just making money." What had happened is we had the guy who was president. Okay, I'm not going to say. So I don't know. Some guy in the group took money from our coffers and then donated under his name to Choose to Give, which was a scholarship thing. And so the organization didn't get credit for it. He did. Oh, wow. And to this day, he's courted like a high roller because he made donation of tens of thousands of dollars. And that got lost in the bureaucracy that we actually were, but we were just not doing it properly accounting wise. Yeah. It was, essentially he embezzled the money and then he gave it back to the university's charity arm. And so we got in big trouble with the guy. And I swear, there was the president of this student organization at the time had some sort of beef with somebody in the group. I swear there was some personal element. But anyway, what ended up happening is they ended up going to the TMA department, and where formally the money was turned into scholarships, which I feel is fine because we had no idea what to do with the money. And it was kind of a point of contention among people in the group. And so, but to me, it was interesting moving from this to somebody that understood theatricals, that they knew what we were worth. They tried at first to go to the economics department, get under a few others, but they were always turned away. But the TMA department knew wait a minute, they're selling how many tickets? Yeah. We'll take them. Sure. Yeah. We just need a faculty advisor. Yeah. That's worth the hassle.
I would like to think that we were a little more pragmatic. I have to be careful again too. Yeah. The School of Music, for example, has jettisoned a lot of really money making organizations, performance groups.
Oh, really?
Just because it doesn't really fit their...
Wasn't academic enough?
It wasn't academic enough. It wasn't, and classical, I don't mean classical with a capital C. I mean classical it wasn't classical kind of educational music material. And
so it was like John Williams classics or something,
exactly.
The Star Wars soundtrack.
Right.
Yeah. No, I can see that happening.
So
there's always a conflict in universities.
There is.
I don't know, but it's interesting. Musicals, right? How has that been how is TMA department treated by more dramatic departments and
it was. I want to be careful of the language I used in here because there's a word that starts with B. Hopefully I won't you might have to edit it out, but I would always say musical theater is the bastard stepchild of theater. It's kind of that way because it's considered not as highbrow, not as legitimate, and because it is the most popular. And it makes a lot of money, potentially. So a place like Tuacahn, I believe, and some of their numbers may be different, but if you went to most regional theaters around the country, and a regional theater would be, for example, Pioneer Theater Company is a regional theater, very well-respected, a terrific company. It's a 501c3. It goes through the University of Utah. But I think the average is probably about 50-50 in terms of earned income from box office and souvenirs and programs, and 50% donated income. Really? But some place like Tuacahn, at least for a long time, was running between 90 and 95% earned income, and very little donated because musicals do have the potential of creating a lot of ticket sales and higher prices and that sort of thing too. So it's a double-edged sword, but at the same time, musicals have come into their own in the last 20 years, even with academic people studying musicals.
Oh,
so
really?
people with PhDs that are going to go back and look at the the small town mythos in the American musical, Anatevka to River City.
Yeah.
If you're a musical theater person, you'll know what musicals those are from, one from Fiddler on the Roof, one from Music Man. No one was doing that until about the last 20 years, really looking at it as something that was legitimate enough to have an academic exercise taking a look at the material. So it's really come into its own now.
No, I bet. And one also, you can't ignore it. I mean, there's no dramatic play that has had the reach or the commercial and cultural of like Wicked. Right?
No, yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot of dramatic play, even 1/10 of that.
Yeah.
Not close.
And every once in a while you'll get one. And that was different back in like the 1940s and 50s. There were musicals around. It was more the heyday of MGM musicals. So they were on film.
Oh, yeah.
Which kind of went away and it now has had a resurgence as well. But at that time, straight plays, that was the era of Tennessee Williams and some of the most famous, and Lillian Hellman, some of the most famous mid-century American playwrights. And their stuff always, Neil Simon. Hardly anyone knows who Neil Simon is anymore.
No.
But
or Samuel Beckett. Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so but they sold out on Broadway all the time then. So.
Yeah. In fact, Wizard of Oz, speaking of this, I recently rewatched Wizard of Oz. It's really good. I mean, it was funny. Like, I think it gets classified as a children's movie, but it's really not. And it's really fantastic. Like I'm going to get in trouble with people here, but I think it's the greatest movie of all time. Sorry, Godfather. There's just a lot more going on in Wizard of Oz than Godfather, weirdly. And also, I mean, it's so true. So anyway, my interpretation of Wizard of Oz, bear with me. You can chime in on this if you want. And I even forgot it was a musical because I just remembered the plot, but I forgot that it had songs in it. But because I haven't seen it for over a decade or more. But it's about the scarecrow is the brain, and it's good to have a brain, but a brain is worthless without having a heart, which is a tin man, and both are worthless if you don't have courage with. And that's like the base, that's a reoccurring thing. Also, reoccurring thing is they already have it. The wizard just kind of has to say, go do it. Yeah. And then they realize they have it.
And if you read Frank Baum's original material, I mean, I think he had at least 20 Oz books. I directed it twice at Tuacahn. I'm not directing it. It's going on right now.
Yeah.
And I wasn't invited to direct it for the third time, which I can understand.
It's because you put that really risky scene in.
Well,
what are you doing? That's part of it.
I put a tornado in. No, wait, that was already there. The first time I directed it was pre-Wicked. The second time was post-Wicked. And I remember the gal playing the Wicked Witch of the West. We had to have this conversation saying, you're Elphaba now. In the mind's eye of our people watching, you're a much more sympathetic character simply because they've all seen Wicked. And maybe not all because the film hadn't come out, of course. Yeah. This year, now the film has come out. Everyone's doing Wizard of Oz too. Simply.
Oh yeah, the Sphere's doing Wizard of Oz. They reprogrammed it,
and so
everyone's
Sundance, and so is Tuacahn.
Yeah.
And so trying to on the shirt tails of Wicked, the film, and I understand that it makes perfect box office sense.
Yeah, no, but I think like a problematic thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm fans. Don't get me. Wicked people are going to kill me for saying this, but in the movie, The Wicked Witch of the East, I realize it came out in 1939. Hitler was in Poland. This was a very real thing. Hitler had run Germany for a decade. He was very much in the news. The Wicked Witch of the East is definitely Hitler. Like the way the troops march in, and that's definitely a reference to goose stepping and SS troopers. And another thing that's kind of problematic as far as like this. So, I mean, is they're really happy when that's the surprise. Like Dorothy's like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry I killed your leader. They're like, no, this is fantastic. Thank you. So you kind of have to really like believe that her subjects are completely ignorant of how badly she was treating them. And so, I mean, so it doesn't dovetail as neatly as I think Wicked would like you think it does.
Well, and I think doing Wizard of Oz has a lot of very current messages for our nation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, these are conflicts. I mean, I read a book of political philosophy from we are not political on this podcast, FYI, just saying. But it was a book on political philosophy written in 1940. And I did not realize that. And I read it. And then it got to a point, he's like, well, Imperial Japan has done this. Like midway, 3/4 through the book, I was like, oh, this is just the way people work.
Yeah.
I mean, so we're always having these struggles and so on. So we can say whatever. But anyway, yeah. So, oh shoot, I got myself in so much trouble with that, but who cares? So, but yeah, no, if you go back and watch Wizard of Oz, the scenes where they sneak in very much, I feel, in Nazi references. And for them, I mean, for us, it's like in the past, for them, it was like contemporary news because it came out in 1939, which is a long time ago. That's not coming up on 100 years practically. It's 80 years. So it's a long time. But anyway, so you're working on a new musical now, which I find fascinating. It's called Osmond's The Musical. Is that the title?
Musical.
The New Musical.
Yeah.
Osmond's The New Musical. And so what is it like? I haven't seen it. Is it like, because ABBA did one, which was a huge hit.
Well,
how are they doing
There's
it?
a whole genre of called jukebox musicals. And
Yeah.
those are ones that are based on like A Beautiful is the Carole King musical. One of our grads, Will Swenson, just in the last few years got done starring in Beautiful Music. It was the Neil Diamond one. I saw him in it. And he was
And there's one about like the Temptations or something too.
Temptations, that I think is still on Broadway right now. There's been all kinds of jukebox musicals. Basically, that means, and in a lot of ways, the ABBA one, which is, what's the name of it? Why am I forgetting it?
I'm forgetting it too.
Oh man, I'm going to be in trouble from.
But it's a big one. I went to it in London. In fact, it's funny. I went to it in London, and just being from Utah, I was like, yeah, it's gonna be huge. I bought a ticket. I got a terrible ticket. I could barely see people. I was like, this stinks. So then I only bought really expensive, nice tickets. Because I figure if you can't see their face, like you need binoculars. You're not there.
Exactly.
I mean, and I was like backpacking, like it was a hit. I would even be buying the ticket, and the person would be like, are you sure you want to get this? This is this much money. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm just allocating my budget. I'll be sleeping on the floor, sleeping in the street, but I'm going to get a good ticket to the show. Yeah.
Well, and I think because London still has Osmond mania, it's not to the same degree here in the U.S., although they have a huge following that I didn't realize.
Yeah.
It's a little more challenging because part of that following might be in Orlando and the other parts in Southern California, and then some are in Seattle, as opposed to the U.K., where overall you could probably get to London on a 4-hour train ride from most anywhere in the country. But I have been blown away by, and I hate that term, I should think of a different one to use. I have been so impressed by the Osmond family. I never really knew that much about them, and I had kind of this is a bubblegum sort of kind of thing. Then to find out that they had 10 gold records in 1 year, more than Elvis, more than the Rolling Stones, more than the Beatles.
10 gold records in 1 year.
Now that it took, one of them was Donnie's, one was Donnie and Marie, one was the Osmond Brothers.
Oh, these are records, not singles.
Yeah.
Records. That is amazing.
It's freaking amazing. And then at one time, they lost $80 million, which translates into today's money at about $361 million when I looked it up. And they went and earned every penny of it back. And so they were heroes in that way. And they have remained in the business, to one degree or another for their entire lives. And so I want those who love the Osmonds will come to the show anyway. I want to cater to those who don't know this. Joseph Campbell always talked about the hero myth. Well, the family is the hero in this show, the family and what they do to pull themselves out of this abyss of having built a studio here in Orem and then having some people kind of rip off money from them and some mismanagement and just
Osmond Studios.
It all.
Which is actually just down the road from my first rental location. I would drive by Osmond Studios. It's on my left every time I go to work. And it's now like a therapy school.
It went to be I think it went to be something of a in-house, mental is not the right word. So
it's like a rehab clinic. Like Lindsay Lohan went there or something, right? And they did helotherapy.
Much better.
Yeah.
And I actually, I was, for a couple of years, I was artistic director of Provo Theater Company, which if I could reach my head around your window here, I could probably see the...
Oh, you're right. Yeah, they're just right over there, like in an old church. Yeah.
Beautiful little church. I think it had like 180 seats or something.
Yeah.
And we tried to do edgy for, for Provo, Utah, which was hard to come up with. But we would rehearse in the old Osmond studio.
Oh, really?
And so it was kind of spooky to just be in the hallway there of this. At this time, this was probably 1997, 98, 99. It was still empty. That time.
Interesting.
And so those are my memories of it. But anyway, this show, I'm also trying to incorporate real visuals from it. We have to fight a little bit to find out what's legal and what's not to make sure everything's legal. But it's really a fantastic story, and you're going to hear all of their fun music, and to know that they all played instruments, and to know that there's a fun little bit that says Elvis visited them and said, boys, your outfits really kind of suck. And he said, I'm going to send you my designer. And he did.
Oh, he did, really?
So all the jumpsuits that you see the Osmond brothers in, they actually came from the same designer that did Elvis.
Oh, and those are on the poster, I believe.
Yes, they are. And then he also said, and your moves are a little, he did not use the word wimpy. I'm using that word.
Yeah.
So he said, let me get you with my my martial arts guy. 3 guesses who that martial arts guy was? Maybe you're too young to know
Chuck Norris. Oh, no, Chuck Norris. Okay.
It was Chuck Norris.
Could have been Bruce Lee. That's my
well,
guess.
it could have been.
Yeah.
But anyway, Chuck Norris is, he says they'll try to make it to opening night. I hope he does. I'd like to meet him. But that he really worked with them to change their moves and that sort
Chuck Norris?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's why Elvis was always doing those karate chops and kicks.
Absolutely.
Okay, there we go.
And the same thing with the Osmond
There you
brothers,
go.
too. They were
Yeah.
doing that. And so I think there will be lots of surprises for everyone. And they were, especially the older brothers. We have this recording of young Jay, who wrote the show, singing Hang On Sloopy. He's 7 years old. He has got a rock scream that is absolutely perfect. He's 7 years old. I said,
Amazing.
Jay, who taught you that? He said, well, I just listened to things and, and it came. And I'm like, holy cow, there is and was a continuation of really raw talent in these guys that I never, and they could have been rock stars. There's another story of them being at a Led Zeppelin concert and Led Zeppelin calling them up on stage, and they sang some songs and did some stuff with Led Zeppelin, because I think especially the older brothers really wanted to be rock and roll stars. And they could have. I think they could have, but kind of, got pulled in a different direction. But I think the show's got something for everyone. I think it's, even if you think you know the Osmonds, you probably don't. Come and see the show. I think it'll change your mind.
No, it's great. No, I'm excited to see. I read Donny Osmond's autobiography, which I got to tell you is one of the most fascinating celebrity biographies I ever read.
Yeah.
I mean, have you read it?
I have.
Yeah, well, probably in preparation of this. But to me, it was like, because a lot of biographies, if you read, I'm a big fan of biographies, and I'm currently reading one on Mark Twain. It's good.
There you go.
But anyway, they get boring as soon as they get successful. It's kind of ironic. It's like, because it's just like success. But like Donnie's, because he's always struggling, kind of, it seems. So it's like his whole career, he's struggling. And so it's fascinating the whole way through.
I worked with his second to youngest son, Chris, and his wife, Alta, a couple years ago with private acting things.
Yeah.
In fact, we just did a reading of the Osmond script, and I don't think he'll be able to do the show, but Chris came and read the role of his dad.
Oh, wow.
And his wife read.
He looks like him. So that flat, round Osmond face is very distinct.
Saying, could we use him in one of the ensemble roles? And I was like, no way in the world. The minute he walks on the stage, he's his dad in this show. But what was my point? Because, and I was saying, I'm getting ready to retire, and your dad is starting a new show in Vegas.
No, my parents,
please. I'm like, I want to retire, and he's 1 year older than I am.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. My parents went to that show, actually. Yeah, and they said it was really great. Yeah. I mean, like, he's in the audience, he's talking, he's interacting with people, he's taking recommendations. Even like one girl said, I want you to sing this song, and I want to sing it with you. And he's like, okay, but you can sing, right? She's like, yeah. And he got up and sung this duet with this 12-year-old girl who wanted to do it. I mean, it's amazing.
I blame him for my daughter, who was a basketball and volleyball varsity star at Provo High, right down the street.
Right down the road.
And then in her senior year, she says, I want to sing and dance. I'm like, honey, the kids that are getting into the MDT program have been doing this all their lives. And Donnie was on the board of directors of Provo Theater Company, and we were doing a gala thing. And so anyway, I don't remember exactly how it went down, But my daughter wanted to sing a song, and he made her just audition for him right there in the moment.
Oh, really?
Okay, yeah, you're good enough. You can do that. And I haven't ever been able to tell him that, but I want to say, you're probably the person that ruined my daughter's but she did then. It took her 3 times, but she auditioned for the MDT program at BYU and finally got in.
That is interesting.
And stuff too. But
Coincidentally, this is an epiphany I just had a little while ago. This comes up to it. I feel like there are sports kids, and then below them is theater kids. Sorry, below, kind of in the hierarchy of kids. And then below that is visual art kids, which I was one of them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the visual art kids are the theater kids who couldn't do theater.
Were you a weird kid, Mark?
A little bit. Okay. I mean, it's fine. It's weird.
You were mainstream.
No. People look at me now. They don't know. Like, it's weird. Like, my family's super good at sports. I have I have a cousin in the BYU Sports Hall of Fame.
Wow.
And I have another cousin who just won an ESPY for best high school athlete of the year. Jane Hedengren. She got 16 seconds away from breaking the world record in the mile, and she broke the NCAA record while a senior in high school. Oh,
I think I remember reading about that.
Yeah, no, it's huge. She's going to be running for BYU. Everyone's going to be talking about her. But anyway, it's interesting that I've always been very good at sports, but for some reason, people look at me and a 6 foot, 200 pound guy, and they think, oh, well, you're like a jock guy. I'm like, no. I was definitely the guy who just really liked visual art, a lot. Anyway, but it's interesting why did you want to keep your daughter in sports?
Well,
sorry, I don't want to bash because I love all these groups. I love all these people, but I do notice that this kind of happens. For me, I definitely could have, I was starting center forward on my soccer team in high school, but I quit after my sophomore year when I discovered photography. And there you go. Because I just love it.
It's just a difficult lifestyle.
Oh, no, definitely.
I mean, my daughter will be at our house tonight. Her husband works for the federal government. He's been shipped off to D.C. She'll be at our house tonight with 3 kids, staying overnight so she can get up by and be at the old Provo High for her and her son to audition for this film. And it's a callback that 2 of my colleagues from BYU are doing. And it's just a difficult life. And so I thought, if you've got something else that you can do it. But she's still an athlete because she's also a personal trainer and works at least half time as a personal trainer. And those kind of dovetail a little bit with one another in terms of acting and personal training.
No, it does. Yeah, no, they do. Well, I mean, of course, it's a good idea to stay in shape, your actor. In fact, this is a story with Sylvester Stallone. I saw an interviewer ask him, were you like this buff guy in high school and stuff? He's like, no. Just one time in my 20s, I was walking by a muscle magazine. I was like, I was struggling as an actor. I was like, no, that's the guy to be. Yeah. So I really hit the gym, and it's not like I love it, but it's got me parts.
Yep.
And it's,
and I used to say that to my students. I had to be very, very cautious.
Yeah.
But I was like, you are going into a field essentially where people are paying to look at you. Mm-hmm. So you have to be your best you. You have to decide what that is. Mm-hmm. I had a student like that who was kind of scrawny, and then he left BYU and became, a Sylvester Stallone like that. And he's had a great career. He's kind of at the end of it now, but he did roles that I don't think he ever would have done if he on Broadway. He was at Tuacahn a lot with us, and he really made his career by reshaping himself and deciding this is what he wanted to do. But then there's other people that we would say, oh my goodness, they're overweight, they're obese. Then they lose weight and they stop getting the roles.
No, then
they're just not. They're not the same human being.
Yeah, Chris Farley, John Goodman. I mean, there's ones that just really worked for them. In fact, John Goodman was in The Righteous Family. I can't remember this TV show that's on Netflix, but it's really good. And he plays head of a mega church, and he's just got this commanding mass about him, even in his later years, that just really does good as a mega church preacher. And of course, he's in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And so
on. And he played, he was in the original Broadway cast of Big River. And
was he?
Pap, and sang this song, and was large and just incredible in that as well. So he's made his mark as that persona.
Yeah, I think acting, and I've talked about this on the podcast, I think a hard thing about it is knowing what you are and knowing what you can good. And the market will tell you this to a degree, brutally.
Yep.
But I think that's where people get discouraged, is they're kind of going out for roles that they're just not a good fit for.
Right.
Like they want to be the lead in the romantic comedy, or they want to do this. And it's just sorry, it's just not for you. but so find refit. Like, I mean, and that's the nice thing about Patrick Stewart's book. Like he was kind of bummed when he kept on getting me cast as the old guy, but he's like, it gave me parts. And I was in my 20s, but I could put like a couple lines of makeup in my face and I'd look like an old guy on stage. Yeah. But he's like, so I just kind of ran with it.
And sometimes you fall in between things. I'm kind of a little in between because I'm not your, I have 7 grandchildren, but I'm not your quintessential grandpa because I'm not paunchy and I don't want to be. And I'm not completely bald and I don't want to be. And I'm not completely silver haired and I don't want to be. So I'm usually the adult child's parent.
There you go.
And that's where I fit in right now. And I fully realize I've probably only got a few more years of that ahead of me. So I'm trying to do what I can do with that right now, enjoy it while it's here, and then sit on the porch on a rocking chair when I'm done.
Yeah, when people ask why Pedro Pascal's in everything, it's because first they're letting him be in everything. So why wouldn't you? Yeah. Secondly, he's got famous really late in his career.
Yeah.
He's got like 5 years left of being leading man material, and that's the way it is. And honestly, even when I was this was during my brief acting career, really, I never pursued acting, but people would always be like, Mark, will you act in my thing? I think they'd hear my voice. I was good looking when I was a kid. I was good looking when I was a kid. Sadly, I didn't.
I remember you.
There we go. Good looking. Yeah. I remember one time I had a job passing out samples in the supermarket, and like several girls came and gave me roses. I was like, "Why are you doing this?" Like, whatever. Anyway, but I was good looking when I was a kid, so people would ask me to act in their stuff and so on. And there's a lot of roles for 18 to 25, like a lot, and it's hard to find because you don't realize it when you're in it. But that's a fleeting time of life. Like you get older, so there's like a tremendous amount of roles because a lot of drama during that time. So a lot of things are written about that time, but you age out of it quickly.
You do.
And so, whereas you'll be in your, like, you could play a 30 to 50-year-old range for a long time, for decades, but that 18 to 25, that's if you got to hit it. I mean, it's a good time to hit it when you can. Yeah.
My quick story on that one, and I'll leave the name out because she's very well known from a locally produced but nationally watched television show. I'll leave you to guess on that. But she and I played husband and wife in a commercial. It was for a furniture store, I think a number of years ago. And then I remember a few years later, we met each other again. And she was she was actually not my student, but she had been at BYU. And I was auditioning for her father.
Oh, yeah.
And this wasn't more than, I think, 5 years after playing her husband in a TV commercial. And so it turned the corner pretty fast. And that was a slap in the face. But
well, there you go. No, it's funny. Like, I mean, what is it? Like, there's this time when nobody calls you sir. Then you hear the first person call you sir. And you're like, wait a minute. And then it starts happening routinely. And you're like, wait a minute. In fact, there was a defining moment. I was at the dentist, and the dentist said, wow, you've got really good teeth for your age. And I was like, what the crap?
Yeah.
Did you just say for my age?
Yeah.
I just have good teeth. Stop there.
Yeah, exactly.
But, yeah. So anyway, it comes for us all. And for you younger folks out there, it comes faster than you think. Well, it's shocking.
And of course, as a professor for 28 years.
Oh, yeah. You're hanging out with that prime age group all the time.
Exactly. And you also had their respect. You had the bully pulpit, as it were. They would listen to you. Now I fully recognize when I see young people, I'm just this old guy. That's all I am. I'm just another.
Because you don't have the authority of the university behind you. Yeah.
I'm just another old guy unless I have someone give me that rank and status, as it were. So get old. It's better than the alternative, I think. Yeah. Work out, though.
I can tell you, though, like I've lost 40 pounds. And honestly, I'm still losing weight. I lost like 10 pounds in the past 2 months. I'm so happy. Wow. But nothing will make you want to lose more weight more than being on a podcast. Like seeing yourself on tape, you're like, look at that fat dork. And we got to switch. We got to clean that up. So being an actor is the same
as
thing.
An actor. But I'm also 6 days a week at the gym, 2 days with my daughter at, I'll leave the name off, but the gym that she is a trainer at.
Oh, yeah.
And then walking for at least an hour on Sunday. I try to walk every night. I've been doing intermittent fasting. So I eat from 11 in the morning till 7 at night. And then after that, just because as you get older, it's really, really hard. So I'm trying to hold on to that health as long as I can. And it's that I would talk about that with students too, saying we need to be the best we can be, whatever that is. That's up for you to decide whatever that best you is. But
No, that's true. So, I mean, we talked about this and we're coming close, but I wanted what top advice would you give for actors? Because you've been in the director's role, you've been in the acting role, top 5 mistakes you feel actors make starting out or even in their career.
That's kind of a hard one. I think one of them would be if you're too, you have to be careful. If you're too selective, I think in a younger career, you kind of have to take what comes your way. Oh, heck, for me, I have to take what comes my way. I think it's only the top 5% of actors, both stage and screen, that can really be that selective as to what they do. I'm a Meisner teacher. Sanford Meisner was a famous acting teacher of mid-20th century, mostly with film actors. And that was his one. And his definition of acting is living truthfully under imaginary circumstances, which is beautiful. I've never come up with anything better, saying that the only part of the process that is make-believe is the circumstance.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you are using you in service of that circumstance. I try to remind when I'm trying to memorize the lines too, I try to remind myself of that as an actor. Number 3, I think don't be embarrassed by having a day job.
No, everybody does.
And
even especially doing commercials. If you're getting commercials, good for you, man.
And I wouldn't even consider that a day job.
That's not really a day job.
Yeah.
That's not. That's legit work.
Yeah.
It just pays better than everything else.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
and I considered in some ways teaching a day job. There was always, I think it was George Bernard Shaw who said, those who can do, those who can't teach. That always haunted me, but there's also a lot of those who do that can't teach either. So there is an art form
No, it's true.
to that. I'm writing a book. It's not done yet, but it's basically everything that I did in class for the last almost 30 years on that in small little snippets. I would have little sayings that I would give to people, and then some are not mine. One that I can think of that's probably one of my favorite is the illusion of the first time.
Yeah.
Who came up with that? I've looked it up, tried to give credit where credit is due. Or for film acting, I would always use the art that conceals itself. As soon as we see the actor at work, we're done. It's not there anymore because it's not genuine. It's not heartfelt. It's not going to change someone's life, as bombastic as that sounds. That's what we're really out to do.
Yeah.
In live theater too, we're out to potentially change someone's life, even if it's making them laugh for an hour and a half. So there is nobility in acting as a profession. The only problem with it is there's way too many actors and far too few roles.
Yeah.
And
so having a day job, what would you classify good day jobs for actors? Being a waiter?
I had one.
What was it?
At BYU.
Oh, teaching. No, teaching. No, honestly, on teaching is great. Honestly, even with photography, the way the medium is now, virtually nobody makes a living doing it. Yeah. So there's 3 ways to make a living with photography. Is one, and honestly, this doesn't exist anymore, but this in the 90s, this was that you run around the world photographing every major world event. It's just constantly, you're working, you're always on the road.
Sell.
Yeah, well, then you sell it to your wire agency and they syndicate it. But even top wire, if you're shooting for the top agency, you still have to run around the world constantly, and you may make an okay living doing that. Second is to do a less significant amount of commercial work. You shoot 2 or 3 advertisements a week. You have a good major commercial agent, and then you do artwork on the side. And then the other one is you teach and do artwork on the side. Yeah. And you got to tell you, each person engaged in one of those 3 capacities, their main goal is to do their artwork. It's not fun to chase around the president all over the world. Yeah. It's kind of boring. It's routine. Oh, he got off the plane. Great.
Well, and it depends on what you consider. My son worked for corporate video.
Yeah.
But he gets to do an amazing number of really fun things, but I think he would call that his day job. So his YouTube channel he's developing is going to be where his passion is. And the daughter that is a trainer, and she's got a microphone on and is calling it. So it's a performative thing that she does. That's another one that's good for a lot of people. Anything that you can do on your own schedule, your own time frame is great. So you can be there. You can take a 2-week shoot if it comes your way.
Yeah.
So that would be my other one. And then obviously the age-old one is don't give up. and try to stick with it, knowing that there will be different chapters in your life where you are in demand and other chapters where you're less in demand. When you age out of being, all the teen dramas that are on, I always want to watch something with my wife and I'm like, it's another teen drama. I just can't stand to watch it, honey. I'm sorry. I have to leave the room. But those would be my sage wisdom, I guess, if there's anything.
Yeah. So don't feel bad about having, So what about auditions? Like, how about auditioning, since you've been on both sides of it?
Well, and I'm right in the middle of looking at video submissions for the Oscar.
It's interesting doing video now. That takes a lot of pressure off. What is that like?
I love it. Yeah. Just because before it would be for me like back in the day when, I did 6 or 7 episodes of the old Touched by an Angel. Yeah. And I still get residual checks for $12, $18, $25, and that's been off the air for 15 years. But I would have to drive to Salt Lake City. It would be probably a 3-hour process. And I couldn't go very often because of teaching. So being able to do it on your own time and on video, it works, I think, for the film television medium much better because that is the medium. And
that's really how they make the decision off of it. I mean, back in the day, they would record it and then we would discuss the videotape. We could vaguely remember your actual performance.
Well, and I always remember going for Touched by an Angel, and if it was a callback, then I would know by the time I got back to Provo, if I hadn't heard from my agent that I booked it, I wouldn't book it because they already kind of knew who they want. They had to see me live that last moment. And usually it was, and your call time is 5:30 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Well, especially with like a weekly TV show
that was just
constantly churning out content.
Churning it out. So that was, that was a different world. I think it's a little different for live theater. This is really one of the few times that I've ever, for Tuacahn, we usually would see probably 1,200 people a year between LA, New York. We would go to, and they still do, they do one here and they do it in Las Vegas. So we saw a lot of people, and I usually couldn't make it to the general audition, so I would look through all of the video ones. But once upon a time, they didn't allow video. So now it helps, because sometimes if it's a musical, I can push the button and 5 seconds later, I can turn it off if I need to. So from our perspective, that's just not a voice that is going to be able to carry one of the Osmond brothers.
Yeah.
It's not. No. It's not. So that helps us really. And I think it helps the actor too, because they don't waste a lot of time.
Yeah, no, I mean, to me, that's the thing. I mean, I know like a lot of people are callous about this on the producing director end, but it just bugged me that you do a casting call and have like 200 people show up. And then like, just some people, like maybe half, were just completely wasting their time. Yeah. And you'd feel bad that they'd have to sit and wait for so long to go do their terrible audition. And like, to me, it's just like, look at the tape. I mean, they can just send in their tape. Yeah. I guess they don't get the feedback. They don't get to see who they're competing against, I think that could be a drawback as far as like the process to progress, maybe. But just so time intensive to actually audition. And so just sending out tapes. And now I know a lot of actors who are serious about it. They have a ring light. They have a camera set up permanently, and they just kind of wake up, bust out some, and then send them off.
My daughter's kind of grimacing over this one tomorrow because it's the first live audition she's had in quite a few years. And it's really her son's first one. In fact, she ended up sending in an audition tape, and he was just reading, not even on camera. And they said, hey, we like you. We'd like to call you back. But who's reading with you? We really want to see him.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, we'll see. But it is a live audition, which hasn't happened for a while. I mean, pre-COVID.
So callbacks are still done by tape, sort of? We do. I don't know. I've seen callbacks. I guess especially if they're remote, there's no way.
Right. Yeah. And some, I'm fortunate enough with this company that I'm working for now that I don't really audition for them anymore. Yeah. I don't think they
just know what you can do and know what part you're going to fit in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think that also speeds things up for them because they don't want to spend a bunch of time on that either. And they already know who they like and who they want.
And they know you're not going to show up to work drunk or late or something. All those hard things about working. You don't know. To me, when I hear like mistakes, when you said like I made every mistake with that repertoire theater, I was like, to me, it's amazing. Like you hire people and they do things you just can't believe would cross their mind to do in a professional context. And with actors and acting, that can go to really weird levels. Yeah. So anyway, we won't name it. Like, it's weird. It's just, you're like, what? They did what?
Well, because it's one where some people do zero training. Other people are really well trained. And especially in film, TV, occasionally, if you want this street punk kid and he doesn't have any experience, you pull him in anyway, and you work with him because he brings this raw humanity to it. But would you want to work with that person like in a theater one? Like sometimes at Tuacahn, I'd say, oh, I love him. And they'd say, yeah, we had him before. And, it's an 8-month contract now. So they're like, glad you like him, Tim, but we're not going to work with him for the next 8 months. And they have an apartment building. So the actors live in the same apartment building. We're like, okay, same way with the film. If you're going to be filming for 6 months, do you want to live around that person?
Well, and also it's just like even like liability reasons and stuff. Like, I mean, I'm going to tell this story and this is fine. So I was working on a production and one of the girls, this is after the production and after this crew member had been fired for a completely separate reason. But she was like, what happened to blank? And it's like, oh, he moved on to other things. Like, basically, we fired him because he was incompetent for this and this reason. I didn't say that to her. But she's like, yeah, he was kind of weird, wasn't he? I'm like, well, yeah, he was kind of weird. She's like, yeah, he like asked me to photograph him naked. I was like, what? She's like, yeah. And then he like got my phone number somehow. I'm guessing somewhere where he shouldn't have gotten the phone number. And he texted me, he said, I found the perfect hotel for you to photograph me naked. I mean, that is so bad. And that is exploratory behavior that could have landed back on the production somehow. And so it's like, and that's the thing about film, you get a weird mixing of ages and I think this is changing, but honestly, I feel if you're working on an extended project, you should run background checks on people. Like we've been informal, like a construction site, but like, I think there's some people in the system who they can't pass a background check. So they just keep doing it.
Yeah.
And I honestly, so unrelated to this same guy, actually, one of the reasons why he was fired was he was caught stealing from the production, stealing some equipment. Like he broke in and he was on the tape and stuff. And we had a conversation with the police department. And I was like, I kind of feel this guy has a lot of problems. And I thought he had been vetted because he had been part of the system for decades and worked on a lot of projects. And I was like, and I guess they can't tell me his record, but they were kind of like, like they knew a lot about him and he'd been kicking around the system forever. So anyway, yeah, I do think like there was a more innocent time when we couldn't. But I mean, honestly, if I was starting a TV series and hiring crew and people who are going to be with me for a long time, I'd run a background check.
Well, and the one that I'm working on now, it's just a great crew of people.
Yeah.
That's one of the pluses about it. Plus my character's house, where most of my scenes is 5 minutes from home. So I can get up and go to set in 5 minutes most days that I'm doing stuff. But the crew is very enmeshed with the cast, too. There doesn't seem to be that crew's sitting over here, talent's over there.
Yeah.
It's a nice integration of good people that have all worked together a lot.
Yeah. No, and again, I mean, there's a lot of good bondings, and that's the interesting thing. Like, and that's something even I actually observed on that movie I worked on with you. It was such a hard movie to work on, like in a lot of ways, and because it was like it was a low budget independent film and just busting out shots, and it is really fantastic DP who really keeps rate of production fast. Yes. And honestly, and I admire him for that. He recognized he's on a low budget movie. He's like shooting 8 pages a day. He's trying to save the production money, not trying to burn money. But it's kind of like, I felt like a camaraderie with like the gaffer, me as first AC, the DP, because we're like, and that was like the crew to bring it out too. There wasn't other people. So when we were not moving camera, we were moving lights. Like we were on constantly.
I was an extra in that film.
Oh, you were an extra as well as a lead?
And I think there was maybe only 5 minutes of screen time that I wasn't in. But you can see the back of my head sitting in the chapel.
See, there you go. So they didn't even have a budget for like an extra. And so, you really like, and that's the fun thing about working in film or in working in art. You're all rallying together to create this product and you have this audience. And it's kind of like, I mean, I talked to my uncle about it afterward. And I said, it's weird, like how close I felt to these guys after working in this hard situation. My uncle was a chaplain in the Marines, in the Navy. And he says like, yeah, no, that happens in the Marine Corps. Like you maybe just got a touch of it, but you can imagine what these guys feel after like literally going to war with each other. Yeah. There's something about being a hard situation, high pressure on a common mission that really bonds people. Yep. And theater's a way to do it in civilian life.
It is. For sure.
And that's a wonderful thing about it. So on that note, we're going to end. But thank you so much for coming,
Thank
Tim.
you.
And what a wonderful thing you've been able to work in this field for your career.
Well,
and still doing it.
To you, it's great to get reacquainted with you and see the huge success that you've enjoyed and continue to enjoy.
Well, thank you. Thank you. But I'm excited to see The Osmonds, a new musical.
Yep.
It's going to be great. I want to see how they work in One Bad Apple.
There you go.
That's going to be the great treat.
You'll see that at least once in the show, if not twice.
Ironically, One Bad Apple does spoil the whole barrel, though. Just for if you're shopping for apples. If there's a bad apple in the barrel, pass it by. But
not in the show.
In the dating, no. In the song, One Bad Apple does not spoil the whole barrel, baby. Okay. Thanks a lot, Tim.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you.